Welcome, welcome to the next episode of the Madison Podcast, hosted by moi, Shah Tehrani. Hope you're doing good. Hope all of our folks out there watching and listening, we appreciate all the commentary and feedback and emails, and we're grateful, so thank you for that. And today I have a super fun guest, somebody who works with us from a business partnership standpoint, but is also a personal friend, somebody I consider a personal friend, who I met through the business, Chris Fenelus. Here he is from, what's the name of your real estate shop that you just formed?
We had to put it together again, which is, so we left from the EXP, and it's now New Door Realty. New Door Realty, which is 100% Chris's firm. Chris is a very, very successful real estate broker in the business. We've worked together for many years and we work quite well together. So thought I'd invite him on the podcast and give everyone a little perspective from a non-mortgage standpoint, straight up from a real estate standpoint. So Chris, welcome. Shah, thank you, bro.
It's good to have you.
You having me in.
It's good to have you. It's fun to have you.
Yeah.
We'll talk about some fun stuff. I'm sure some people will enjoy it. I'm sure some people will learn some stuff, get a little perspective on our approach to the business. So let's just start with some basics, like how long you've been in the real estate industry and how and why did you get into real estate?
Sure. So for me, it's very, very simple. Like I started back in 2007, right? But I actually didn't start in real estate. I started in the mortgage end of the business. And, you know, the long or the short of it is I was in school. I wanted to make some extra money, you know, clothes, enjoy myself in the evenings.
Are we too far from this microphone? I'm sorry.
Oh,
okay, cool. Sorry.
And I
interrupt your flow, bro.
No,
sorry.
bro. It's good.
I just want to make sure everybody can hear you.
No, certainly. Yeah.
All right, cool.
So I was in school, you know, I wanted to make some additional money. So I wanted to find something I could do, maximize my time and make a considerable amount of money. So I got involved in mortgages, right? 2007. It seemed like the best time in the world to get involved. Like it was Ferraris, Maseratis, and you know all the
people
cars.
People were making money in 06, 07.
It was crazy, right? And so I got involved in that actually here, Long Island in Great Neck, and you know within a couple of months, you know I was dialed in, made a couple dollars, came to an understanding of how you know mortgages work. You know, got these long stip sheets, didn't know what the heck I was doing, right? Like scratching my head, palms sweaty, like nervous, trying to get this deal closed to make what is like, you know, maybe $5,000 or $6,000. You know, being like basically a junior LO, right? And then the market crash, you know, the credit markets compressed. You know, the people who were my mentors in the business, you know, went back to Wall Street or got involved in doing other things. And I segued into real estate and specifically doing rentals because my concept was simple. If the credit markets are compressing and people can no longer purchase, they're going to need some place to live. And so at that point,
so rentals was the game at that point.
Big time, right? And it was easy. And back then there wasn't a lot of large rental companies as there is now. We've seen like over the last 10 years in New York City real estate, like massive rental firms. And heavy investment in tech, even supporting those companies.
Got it.
So then it was really easy to get involved with like large landlords, and create relationships with them. Yeah. Right. They didn't have like this exclusive with this one company. Like if they shook your hand, they look in your eyes like they work with you. Now it's kind of like you got to bully somebody else off in order to get the exclusive on their portfolio. So you know, that game's changed a lot. So got heavily involved in rentals, created a lot of great contacts because I was working with large owners, right, who have massive portfolios. Yeah. And then when the credit markets opened back up and people really started by like 2011, I segued into full-time doing sales.
Got it.
And so
you've been at it for 10 years just on the sales side.
Just on the sales side.
Right. That's awesome. Okay, like going in on 14 years. Got it. And so some of the motivation sounds like, one, you liked real estate. Two, you saw that there was some strong income potential in the industry, right?
Certainly.
Yeah, I think a lot of people see that in real estate, especially now as things are good again. Tell me, what is your general approach to the business? Like, not just how you market yourself, but like what type of business are you specifically targeting, and sort of give us a little bit of the why and why that works for you.
Got it. So first thing I would lead with is that my biggest thing is always in anything, right? Whether it's personal relationships or business, is always strategies and mindset and action. And so if you have the necessary strategies in place, right, and you have the mindset that you can bring these goals into fruition, and you go out and take massive action every day, you can make things happen for yourself. And so for me, you know, working with clients, prospecting like an animal, following up like crazy, showing and showing and showing over a period of time, it becomes exhausting.
Yeah.
And so you need to be able to build build in systems that are going to generate you business without working so hard. So I began to focus on investor activity, as you know, very heavily.
When did that start approximately? Like, when did you start really?
I would say it took me 4 years.
Yeah.
You know, from 2011 to like 2014 going into 15 before I really understood the value, right, of having people who could consistently feed me deals and provide me opportunity.
Right.
Instead of constantly.
So you were doing the sales, you were hustling, you were making deals, but it was like this was an easy pool of sort of inventory that you could turn.
Or a Zillow prospecting, right? Like, you know,
I was saying, you've done it all, so it's
just making the marketing spends and doing the prospecting was for, you know, a solid 4 years, which is great. I loved it because, you know, especially at that time, right? Like people weren't really, Zillow wasn't what it is now.
Yes.
In 12, 13, 14. So the leads were much cheaper, and you got a lot more of them.
Yeah.
And so that was great. And so, you know, again, making adjustments as you see that the industry and the businesses that operate within it begin to make adjustments in their structure, you also need to make those necessary adjustments so that you can continue to grow as a professional and add value to your agents, to your clients. And so I started building out the investor relations and working on referral basis, going back to past clients and following up with them, seeing how things are going with their home. Do they have any friends or family members who are looking to purchase or sell, or maybe are going through something with their property and they just need to ask a couple questions.
Right.
And
just need some advice or some help.
Really started to get into that because, you know, this is the thing. As I grew in the business, I realized everything is all about follow-up, and not just from like the first time that you speak with the client, but also after you close them, right?
Yeah.
Because it's the first time they're purchasing a home. Many of them don't know, you know, much about the process, or just they need like simple little things fixed. They're overpaying, you know. So if you can aid and assist them in that and stay in constant contact with them, they go from clients to friends. And then eventually some of them actually become like family, right?
Yep.
And so that just leads to more business. It's easier to refer partners such as Madison Mortgage and some of the attorneys and folks that we work with.
Yep.
And that keeps deals streamlined.
Like, I love that. I love that.
Like
we focus so much on that too. Like we always saying like relationships, not transactions, right? It's just it's more about like formulating a relationship. One transaction is one transaction, but you do a great job and you build a good relationship with somebody, and you wind up becoming friends the way that we have, right? And sort of you enjoy the people you work with, you enjoy the clients you work with, and they just tend to send you more because they enjoy their interactions with you.
And they trust.
And they trust you, and they know you're going to do the right thing. And so, you know, people can sniff bullshit, right? They know, most, you know, have a good sense for it, right? You know, they know who's authentic and genuine and who's not, and who's just in it for the money and who's in it for, you know, the longer term relationship and building. And, you know, it's like, you know, this like, I was thinking about this a lot last night, like this journey that you go on in life and you're doing business and we grind so hard. And it's just like,
constant.
Man, I just want to be around good people that I like to work with. It's really like, what's your sort of like fundamental variable that you define how you build your company and who's in your company or who you choose to work with as clients. You know, you happen to be a client, but it's like, you know, like I don't want to work with every realtor. I don't want my company to work with every realtor. I want to work with the realtors that are aligned with what we're doing and what we're focused on. Right. And it's like the same thing on your side. It's like you want to work with like enjoyable homeowners that want to sell their houses, or people that are enjoyable to work with and reasonable and fit your sort of profile of what type of client you enjoy having. Right.
Absolutely.
So I think that gets lost on a lot of people. I think like people don't focus on that enough. Right, in their business. So as I hear so many stories of new realtors coming in, and it's just like their approach to the business is that first couple of years from 11 to 14 when you were kind of just figuring it out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, I'd love to help those folks accelerate their learning curve. Right. And we're actually working on some stuff right now to help realtors, like a success track product to help you, like you're new to real estate in the first 6 months, like here's some best practices and some approach. And so as you're saying that, all that's triggering off in my head. So So tell me, that was great. So tell me about your experience having done mortgages initially when you started,
sure,
and having worked with a plethora of different banks, brokers. Give us your value system in terms of what do you value in your mortgage lender relationships, and what have your experiences been with other banks, and then maybe share a little bit of your experience with us, Madison.
Sure.
And give it to us raw, no filtering.
Yeah, no raw.
Doesn't matter that I'm here. I can take the good with the bad.
All right. Well,
cool.
I just hop in. I mean, for me, like somebody who has control, obviously, like has their own appraisal panel, AMC that they're working with, is super important for in New York City real estate, because as you know, everybody's pushing and wants to close yesterday and sending out TOEs at the moment that they get a chance and threatening to kill deals. And it's New York City, right?
Speed is an important component.
It's so important. Yeah. And so like if it's a situation where we don't have fluid communication with the AMC, meaning that as soon as that it's placed and the order receipt comes in, and within a couple days they're at least getting in contact with us to scheduling, then it's just like 2 weeks out, right? Now we're 2 weeks into the deal before the order is even out.
Yeah, that makes sense. So like from your standpoint, I see that, right? That's like one element of the process for us. But like from your standpoint, it's like, that's the critical element. Like the deal's in contract, and it's like, when is the appraiser coming out, right? When are they going to do it? And most importantly, you references like, is that appraiser competent?
Yeah.
Right? Do they know the market that they're coming to appraise?
Like, don't send me a guy from Westchester County to come down and do
the
a
Westchester
deal
guy that has never done a Queens appraisal, or he does 5 Queens appraisals. And depending on what bank you use, you might just get arbitrary, sort of AMCs that they select some random appraiser who's going to do it inexpensively, as opposed to like, this is an AMC that understands the local market. They're going to send the appraiser that's done 5,000 appraisals.
Who specializes in those neighborhoods.
In those neighborhoods, understands them,
and because
understands the trends.
As you know, like a couple blocks, like it could be a big difference.
Huge.
And then also in the boroughs, a lot of times we're dealing with like, people who do these duplex situations. And so if you don't know your way around the guidelines, and like, ceilings being over 8 feet and 2 points of egress, and that being allowed as, livable square footage, then the value is going to come in considerably lower. Then ourselves as realtors, we have to now go ahead and contest this. The sellers are upset.
You lose time
it aggravates
fluidity on the transaction when the appraisers aren't experienced and don't know what they're doing.
Certain.
Okay, so appraisals is a big one. What else do you
appraisals is a big one for ourselves and for the clients, is the disclosures, initial disclosures of what the loan costs are going to be, because so often and a lot of times that's how we get people over to work with Madison, right?
Yeah,
is that they're working with these other banks. They don't have good intentions in terms of giving them the best possible deal. They have great intentions for their own personal benefit as loan officers. And so what happens is they will resist, sending out low costs and giving the purchaser a strong understanding of what their financial contribution towards closing on the deal is going to be. And so the best thing about Madison Mortgage is that is all taken care of upfront. The customers have a firm understanding of what it's going to take for them to get from the start to the finish line, and everything is disclosed up front. And if there's ever been any change, then it's something outside of the rate or general cost. It's something that got incurred over the course of the deal. So when we close loans with Madison, what is quoted is essentially what always ends up transpiring.
We pride ourselves on
or
that,
better.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times you work with these other banks, and they grease the client at the very end. The payments $400 or $500.
Meaning they like bait and switch them. They tell them it's 3%. They wind up at 3.5% a week before.
Or they're charging them extra loan origination
fees. Or there's 2
fees.
Points on there when they disclose no points.
Yes, right. And so in New York, that's considerable. That could be $18,000 like that in our market. Yep. And so there goes like all the furniture for your property, like that the client was just like dreaming of. And
we've seen it so many times, and it's just a really unfortunate component of the business that some of these retail, smaller, mid-sized retail lenders just they're unscrupulous.
And why would you refer them again, right? And why
makes you look bad, right? Exactly.
Make you look horrible.
Yeah, it makes you look bad.
So that's always been a big thing for me, like ensuring that like loan pricing is super competitive.
Sound.
I want the clients to get the best
closing
possible
costs, those variables,
and service.
And I know we're the best at that, right? So certainly in our broker environment, we're more efficient
by far.
So our FHA rates might be a half or 3/4 of a point lower than some of these other retail outfits who are trying to charge really, really high margins on those transactions. It's not appropriate because you're not taking care of the client, right? And especially some of these first-time home buyers, they don't know better. They need to be in somebody's hand that's going to take care of them and give them a really good deal.
Yeah, like that, we shouldn't be hearing from you when the deal is about to die, right? And now all of a sudden you want to start working and push the file. And so the thing that's great here is like essentially every bend of the corner from the disclosures going to the closing, like you have a manager, somebody who's in charge. So it's constant communication. Like on our end, we know where the file stands. And if the clients ever have a question and spoke to somebody at Madison and then now they speak to us, we can actually communicate with them competently because we know what's going on.
Yeah, so that's like part of our over communication strategy, right? We want to hyper communicate with everyone on the transaction. Everyone knows what's going on. No one's calling us and say, hey, we haven't heard anything, what's going on? They know what's going on because we're updating them constantly.
Yeah, if anything, we're waiting, right?
That's generally what our issue is in New York. We don't have that issue. I mean, we're licensed in 20 states.
Yeah, it's
and
massive.
So we don't have that issue in other states because a lot of states just operate on a 30-day close. You go into contract, you close in 30 days. In New York, it's like you go into contract and maybe you close in 30, maybe you close in 60, maybe you close in 120. And it's challenging to manage in a lot of respects, but there's just duration and time that sort of goes extended. But generally what we find is that we're clear to close, we're ready, the rate's locked, everything's done, but the seller needs another 40 days.
Hat in hand. Waiting.
So, but that's okay. That's a good problem.
Yeah.
Right. I'd rather be that and be ready for everybody and just sit and wait with the client's loan cleared and a rate lock in place. Everything's protected. Client's happy. They know their numbers a month before they're closing.
Certainly.
Right. And so,
and from a real estate
perspective,
also it's great for us, right? Because our conversation is, hey, it's not you referred me to this lender. What's going on? The communication is not there. And then, it's us talking about the seller. When's the seller's attorney going to get things? When are they going to clear title? Like, when are they going to get together so we can close already?
Your loan's done. Everything's ready. Like, they're calling you like, hey, do we know anything on the seller side?
That's the power, right?
Yeah.
Because
I think most real estate brokers, real estate agents, they don't really get it until they start doing a couple of transactions and they see how fluid it is with us, how much better our rates are, how much better the client experience is, and then how many more transactions and how much less time you have to waste on singular transactions as a real estate agent, right?
Sure.
Like our viewpoint is like, you did your job already.
Yeah.
Right? Your job was get the client pre-approved properly by a good bank, get out there, find them a house, get them in contract.
Make it happen.
Right. Get them in contract. You did your job. That's your responsibility, right? If you happen to refer the client to one of your preferred lenders, then it's like on that lender to get it done now, right? It's like you referred us a client. We're responsible to get that transaction closed promptly and to communicate effectively with all the parties on that transaction. And I think it's like, I don't know. I just think that in New York in general, like the expectations for that are so like down. Like there's just such a lack of focus on client experience and communication because these deals take so long, right? And then you're busy working on another deal. That deal came in 90 days ago, but it's like, hey, you can't forget about that deal that came in 90 days ago. Like, where is that deal? So we get so many transactions, man, like where a real estate agent had a deal, they gave it to this lender or somebody used their lender. That lender bait and switched them. We just had one 2 weeks ago. It was in Jersey. They were using a regional mortgage player who's sort of known for the bait and switch. I won't say their name. But they quoted the gentleman 3.25, and then at the end they tried to give him 3.875, and he basically said no. And now I'm not closing with you. I don't care if I lose the house, because you guys are you're not doing the right thing. You guys are crooks, right? And they called us, and we gave him 2.875, lower than what, literally a full percentage point lower than what he was estimating, and we closed it in 2 weeks. And we couldn't use the appraisal because the appraiser with that bank would not update anything that we needed because the appraisal was deficient. So in 2 weeks, start to finish, and we had to go out there and do a new appraisal, which we told the client, we'll pay for it. It's fine.
Yeah.
Right. And it's just like that example is going on sort of regularly in our industry, and you see it on your side. Certainly. Right. And so I'm glad you said that, because that's so much of our focus is like, how do we give them an amazing experience? How do we give them an amazing deal? And then it just turns into like my family, my brother, my cousin, my best friend. Right?
They have the,
and then those deals come back to you, which is great for us too, right? Yeah. Wind up back in your hands.
One thing that I just want to hop in on what you said is like new agents and maybe even brokers not understanding the value and great service and turn times. Okay, so guys, anybody out there who's spending any kind of money, whether it's on social or you're doing any kind of Zillow spend, go ahead and take a look at what you spent in the last like 90 days, right? That's what it's essentially taking most of these lenders to like get a file wrapped up and done, right? And then now understand that you could have already closed out a transaction with a bank like Madison that's going to give your client the service, it's going to close and get things done quickly, which is then going to allow you to reinvest in your business and then kind of parlay over like 3-month periods and grow your marketing, budget and allow you to do more. And so for me, like backtracking new agents and also like a massive thing for me, and we've always discussed this, is speed and just is so important. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, like when you're spending money on marketing and especially when you're doing it in a team setting, right, you need to get your ROI. Yeah. And if things start rolling over quarters, then it becomes very difficult for you to scale your business, right? And so that's why with you guys, I love you guys so much, because not only do you guys participate in aiding and assisting me growing my marketing budget over the years, but you always have maintained fluid communication and close deals out, which go ahead and allow me to reinvest in the business and do more.
I also think your dynamic is unique because, and maybe we could speak to it, is like, you work on a lot of investor-based flips. Like you do a lot of other transactions, but a good portion of your volume happens to be investors who trust you, know you, and know that if you say it's a deal, it's going to go. Absolutely. Right? And so I think some of those houses are vacant. So the speed to close variable is so critical because they want to close. I remember when I was previously in retail at another bank where it was like getting a 30-day closing out was challenging. Oh, yeah. Now it's a joke. Yeah. Right? Like we're closing refinance transactions in an average of 15 days.
Which is insane.
Our purchase CTCs are 21 days from disclosure to CTC. So it's like I'm always waiting. I'm either waiting for the seller or the appraiser to deliver the report, meaning I've already submitted the loan, cleared all the conditions. As soon as the appraisal comes in, the loan's clear to close.
Ready to go.
Right? The loan's locked. Everything's ready to go. CDs are out. It's such a different experience. And so you maybe more so than other agents value the speed component because you sell a lot of vacant houses where the seller's ready to go. Certainly. I think speed still becomes a critical variable, even if your house is not vacant, because it's like you want to know that your deal is done. Right, the transaction is wrapped, and 3 weeks from the time we've started that transaction and contract, we might not be closing for another 45 or 60 days, but the deal's done. All the conditions are cleared. Done. Right, the appraisal is good for 120 days or 90, depending on the type of product it is. So,
the other thing
I appreciate you sharing that. The speed component, I think,
it's massive.
It's massive, and I don't think most agents really genuinely understand how powerful it is. Right, having the power and the speed and the good the local appraisers.
It allows you to just do so much more.
You could do more business.
And then even for the clients, guys, like a lot of times with them, like there's a holiday pretty much every single month here in States, right? Yep. So like people, like either the kids are going back to school or then it's Thanksgiving, then it's Christmas, New Year's, whatever the holidays are that are going on. So people always have these like false, like timelines. Like they're willing to extend them for the right house, but they're always trying to be in for Thanksgiving or for 4th of July or Memorial Day. And so when you're like letting them down because your lender is not closing out the deal that you referred them to and now they missed a major holiday, like, listen, everybody's happy when they're signing and they move in, but it just becomes like, again, like another conversation that you have that takes you away from servicing other clients, like, because you're dealing with
problems. Time spent on transactions that should be done already. Yeah. All right, so let's transition. We talked a lot about that, but it's a fun subject. I always enjoy talking about that. What advice do you have, Chris, for people who are currently, and let's be very specific, you're in the New York market, 5 boroughs, Nassau, Suffolk, Westchester area, and you're out there shopping for a home right now. We both know inventory is reasonably thin, relatively speaking. Right? What advice do you have for those folks? What advice would you give them about the process in general, what their expectations should be, and how they should go about approaching their home shopping experience?
Great question. So I always teach my agents that working with clients is like, it's like you're dating, right? When they choose you as a realtor, it's like you went on your first date.
Got it.
And so now you have to figure out like, what matters to that person.
Yep.
And start building substantive relationships around those things that matter. And when you're dealing with a client, right, a lot of times what will happen is they'll work with one agent and then, they'll see another house and they'll work with another agent. Well, the thing is like now you're just speed dating. And so you're never getting enough time with one person to fully understand like what's going to work for you in terms of the neighborhoods and the house itself or location. Like maybe you have like young children and being close to grandma is important because she helps out. And then you said that to one realtor and then now the next one you didn't, you were just focused on the house or the backyard or whatever it is, right? And so now that gets lost in translation from one realtor to the next. So I would say find somebody who you absolutely enjoy to work with, who you trust, right? And stick with them and share as much as possible because the more that you share, the easier it is going to be able for them to help you and also not waste your time because with the market the way that it is now, it's going to be difficult for you to find like the 100% home that you dreamed about that you wanted to move into. But if they can get 80% of what you want and 20% that you can't stand but you'll put up with, right? And they'll know it the moment that they see it, then you don't have to waste your weekends going out and running around seeing things that are not going to work. They'll get you in on a Tuesday or maybe a Wednesday, Thursday on the home that they know is going to work for you. So I'd say that's super important. Get somebody who enjoys spending time with, who you trust, who's is going to be working on your behalf throughout the day, and share with them as much as possible. The second thing is ensure that you doctor yourself up the correct way. And what do I mean by that? Now there's so many offers coming in. So if you can have your approval, that's great. Everybody submits their approval and a sales offer. Go ahead and cater like a letter about yourself, your family, your children, the school district, why you want to live into the area.
Cool. Personalize it.
Personalize
the offer, not just like.
It helps out a lot.
Yeah.
Man. Like when you're
That's interesting. I had not heard of that before.
It's great.
It works well, huh?
Yeah, because
that makes sense.
Especially if you have a family who's there and they, they have
you're selling
great
your house. You want to know who you're selling to. Like, I like this buyer. They're coming in with their kids. They want to be in the school district.
And maybe they share similarities to their own children, right? And they could just see their life playing out, and it's an emotional heartstring. That's one. I
love that.
Yeah.
Especially in a hyper-competitive market right now where every house is getting multiple offers, sort of a way to stand out.
You have to do that.
I like that.
The other thing that I would say is make sure that you have like,
that's great advice.
Your assets. Like a lot of times people don't want to do that. Like show your most recent bank statement, block out the account number, right? If you're serious about purchasing a home and living in an area and you have the monies in the bank, you want to go ahead and supply a little bit more insight as to who you are financially and as an individual, personally, right? So if you can provide updated bank statements or most recent pay stubs, along with your offer and your pre-approval, then you stand out. So now when I go to sit down with the seller and I'm going over offers, I have 4 offers on the table, I have 3 pre-approvals, and I have 1 package. And all of them are priced within the same couple dollars. The package is more presentable, there's more information, and it's going to make
because you got a letter. It's like, here's who the family is. This is their pay stubs and their bank statements. They're very well qualified. This is my mortgage professional that vetted it to confirm that we know the deal is sound and will close.
It's going to be so much easier.
Makes it easier to get that offer accepted, right? So work with an agent as a buyer. Like, go work with an agent who understands that principle and understands how to present an offer and how to handle the process.
Yeah, because you want to display higher value.
But I'm a homeowner. How do I figure that out? Right. In my mind, I go on Zillow or one of these sites and read about some of my agents and what other people's experience was. And then some of it's like maybe having to go out with a couple of agents to get a feel for who you like.
Yeah.
Right. So is that reasonable to say in terms of approach as a homeowner?
Yeah, I think as a homeowner or a purchaser?
I'm a purchaser. Excuse me. I'm a purchaser. I want to buy a house. Like, how do you find the agent that's best for you?
So I believe realtors should be doing buyer consultations. And if you're going out and doing that, and you're not coming in contact with attorneys who are actually realtors who are actually doing a consultation with you, then you should start having your own interview process.
Got it.
Right? It's because
great. So that's a great one. Let's hit on that. Like, what questions? I'm a homeowner. I'm a gentleman that wants to purchase a home. What questions should I be asking my real estate agent to sort of determine whether or not that agent is appropriate for me and is a good agent and knows what they're doing. Besides coming to Next Door Realty, I'm saying. But, But like, because we know your agents are well trained. But like, I'm the purchaser. Give me advice.
I mean, for me, I would want to know first and foremost: are they full time or are they part time?
Okay, love that.
That's massive.
That makes a lot of
That's massive.
That makes a ton of sense. Yep.
And if they're part time,
because there's so many part time real estate agents out there, you're only going to get 10 hours of their week potential for them to work on your maybe. Right.
So,
I like that.
So are you full time? Are you part time? And if they're part time, don't push them away, right? Because a lot of times people
might be part time 25 hours a week because they have kids. A different story. But,
yeah.
Right. And there's nothing wrong with part time, but that's a great question to ask because it gives you a sense of how many hours is this person working? Are they full time, part time? Okay, I love that.
How many people do you work with at a time?
Yeah, love that too.
Because if you're just working with anybody, right, and whatever comes across your desk is going to be a lot of time wasted. And guys, not for nothing, that's like a rookie agent. That's what he does or she does. Anytime somebody calls, they're running to show something, to work things out. They're not necessarily vetting them and getting through the entire process and building a relationship. And so their time will be spent doing a hodgepodge of activities that don't amount to necessary closings or productivity.
Got it.
So
love that.
So that's super important. And then what also I would just try to connect with values. Like, what do they value?
Right.
Because again, you're spending time with them. You know, oftentimes.
Sometimes just a feel thing too, a little bit. Like, do you vibe with that personality?
And do you think they will do the best thing in your own interest?
Yeah.
Because I can honestly.
Can you trust them?
Yeah.
Do you feel like they're looking out for you or for their own pocket?
Yeah.
Right. Because the great agents in this business,
service,
they care about money, but they're more focused on being successful and taking care of their clients. And they know the money will come if they practice those good habits.
Yes,
right,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's all value added, right? If you're adding value and you're providing service, then that makes those are the things that I think are the most important things, though, in terms of a purchaser. Go ahead and interview them because you want to ensure that your time is going to be spent with somebody who's dialed in, focused, right? Like you always say, just completely linear, right? You establish one goal, you go after it, you get it done, and then you move on.
Singular focus.
Yeah, if you have like all of these goals and clients that you're working with, then how are you possibly going to
It's difficult to manage all of that and sort of do it effectively. Some agents can.
I think it's nearly impossible to actually work with more than 7 people full time.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I don't as a realtor.
I think that's a lot. Even. I think that's
most people can manage 3 to 5.
It's probably 3 to 5.
But 7 is like your.
Okay, so if you're a new realtor in the business, you should be in the probably 2 to 3, maybe 4 clients at a time. Give them all your service and energy and sort of figure out what they want, how to go after it. Tell me what you think, Chris, is the biggest misconception about the real estate industry and your industry in general, the real estate brokerage agency sort of relationship with clients.
Well, I've heard Ben on the Madison podcast before. You know, everybody does podcasts. And by the way, this is my first one. And,
all right.
You know, they all do the Instagram and they talk about how wildly successful they are and, you know, how easy things are put together. And the reality is real estate is like anything else. You get in what you put in.
Right.
But you're also in New York where everybody with money from anywhere in the world, money is concentrated here with legitimate business structures. So just because you're putting things, time and energy in, that doesn't mean it's going to necessarily pan out. And so with that understanding is being focused day in and day out on making things happen. Understand your matrix, know your numbers, get after it, and don't listen to the outside chatter. Right? Yeah. Don't pay attention to what's going on Instagram and try to earmark your year towards what other people are doing because those guys could be 12, 15, 18 years into the business and they're just showing you what, all the gold at the end of the rainbow. And they're not showing you the mountains, the valleys and the rain and the snow and the sleet and everything that they went through to get there.
I know.
And so
true. That's what I hate about social media, by the way. It's like just, that's why, to be honest, that's why I'm not hyper active on social media.
Me too.
It's just like, I'm not trying to floss or just be out there like I'm doing this. It's like, because you're presenting that, you want to present the best of yourself. Yeah. But it's like, but
nobody presents the failures.
No, exactly.
And you got to fail forward, right?
Yeah, exactly. Nobody's like, oh, this is the best. Like, I just failed amazingly. Like,
Don't earmark yourself towards what you see on social media.
Social media is not reality. Right? It's one person's presentation of what they want people to perceive their reality being. Yes. Right? I think that's generally my take on social media.
So before we hop in, Shad, I'm sorry to cut you here. I just want to get this while I'm focused before I lose it.
Yeah, go.
My thing, don't earmark yourself towards social media. Okay, create an income goal. Understand what your average transaction is going to be, right? And begin tracking. Like, right, if I speak to 300 people, I get 10 good contacts. Out of 10 good contacts, I get 6 appointments. Out of 6 appointments, I end up getting 1 listed. Or, you know, I put 1 buyer into contract. Start tracking yourself immediately, because then what can happen is you can hold yourself accountable, right, for meeting or exceeding or falling short of your own goals, and you'll be able to see the numbers and understand why. And if you do that, okay, you're not only are you going to be able to do it just in one part, maybe like we've been talking, work with buyers, but then now you'll be able to diversify your time and start doing that with sellers, and then maybe from an investment and getting involved into the ownership aspect of the game. So start tracking immediately, set goals that are going to change your life for the betterment that you're looking to do within the next 12, 18 months.
Love that.
Don't do the, you know, my agents come in and they want to make $380,000 and it's year 1 and we haven't made 12 grand yet. Yeah. And I love that. I know you want the Cullinan, right? But like right now, let's upgrade and get ourselves into an S-class or to, like, you know, whatever it is. That
or let's have goals and then let's establish a pathway towards those goals.
Have to.
Right? Like, and then what metrics do you have to hit in order to get those goals? And
a lot of people don't know those numbers. And that's one thing.
I think most don't. You're right.
Shah, right now, do you know that something like 82 to 88% of all realtors stop following up after the second time? Yeah. So all the money is...
That's a crazy metric.
Dude.
You stop after the second time.
It's like, I think it's 80...
8 out of 10, basically.
Yeah,
let's call
it's nearly 90% of realtors fail within 3 years, and that's because you guys do not follow up. You don't follow up. So, you know, something like, you know, 80% or more of all transactions happen after the 5th follow-up. Yeah. And so in our game, you have prospecting, and then the follow-up goes when you've actually met them and gone out. And so, guys, it circles back to what I was talking about earlier about doing consultations, getting people to where you can create a strong relationship with them, keeping a level of loyalty, with being in constant contact with them, following up. That's going to lead to transactions. It's going to help you to run through those matrices of numbers to get you to where the game is what? The game is on. Yep. Right? Because until you're like 5th time following up or going out and showing, you're not even really in the game of making money and closing deals yet. Nope. And so something like, again, I don't know exactly what it is, but over 80% of realtors stop with only ever having a 5% chance of closing a deal.
Yeah, so there's like a quick tweak right there. It's like if you're at 2, get yourself to 5 right away.
Do it, get in the game.
Like immediately. Like it's an immediate tweak that'll result in like you'll get better performance.
And you should be ecstatic. Like you should like have a warm aura and high energy like as soon as you know you're getting to like that 5th contact because you're in the game. And now you know like all that time and energy and effort that you put in, you're gonna actually be able to start reaping the benefits, not just for yourself, results. But for your clients. Yeah. Right? And you're gonna start winning.
I love it. That's great advice, man. Yeah. That's really great advice. All right, let's talk about the future. Tell me, where do you see yourself and your company, say 2 years from now? And bigger picture, where do you see the real estate industry over the next 3 to 5 years, your business? What does your business look like in 2025?
2025. So
So wait, start with, where do you want to be in 2 years?
Where in the next year, career-wise? So one of the interesting things also...
Or I guess a better way to phrase that question is like, what are your goals?
Got it. So
for the next year?
Right now, for the next 2 years, my goal is so with New Door Realty, my biggest thing here is I don't want to be the traditional broker who's just coming in and is, you know, taking their percentages. I work with my guys. I help them set up the necessary legal structure. I get them set up with retirement accounts. We work towards line of credits. Right, like I position them to be in business, to understand and know how to essentially operate their own P&L.
Business. Yeah.
And so that's my biggest thing is I want to get everybody who's around me now to be in self-sufficient, who are out of the real estate game, not just into the ownership part. Right. So have my agents increase their network through ownership by running a necessary business, and then begin to duplicate by adding people underneath us who fit our company culture and help them to win and change their lives and their families' lives. So that's in starting this company, that was my goal, because nobody's doing that. Everybody is just kind of fitting like these traditional
boxes.
boxes.
For me, I'll give you this split.
I'll give you a better split. I'll give you leads.
Not like I'll give you support. I'll help you build your business. I'll teach you best practices. I'll teach you what I've learned. I'll get in the trenches with you when you need help on a deal. And
how many realtors and mortgage guys just
nobody. But that's why your team is small and highly effective.
We got to do it that way.
Yeah, because it's like in your game, it's you got to be selective about who you work with. Mine too. Listen, I do 150 to 175 transactions a month with basically 6 LO team leads.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like I subscribe to that methodology a lot as well. And you got to be in the weeds.
Yeah.
You got to be in the weeds of your business. You got to be working with the partners that are in with you. So I love that strategy. So that's your goal, is to deploy that sort of, or I should say expand upon that.
Expand upon it
over the next couple of years.
And I really want to see that everybody to really just grow. That's my biggest thing. I know a lot of people are 3 and 5 years and they got their 10-year plan of action. My thing is to affect the most change with the people who's closest to me by showing them how to manage their business effectively, not make all the mistakes that I made, right? And instead of having to go 14 years through the business and then figure things out, maybe like year 8.
Yeah.
Like just start off this way.
Start at year 8.
Start at year 8. Do things the correct way. And even for real estate, so many times guys are making money, they misappropriate the funds, they go to Miami, do this now. It's tax implications. No, we close deals, so much money goes over into this account, so much money pours back into the marketing. This goes off to the side.
Manage their business the right way.
Show them. And so
love that.
And so that's what I've been focused on. And so my goal is to do that with 10 people. And within the next 3 years to have 10 people who we got into the ownership,
developed into that. I love that.
And able to be team leads like you have here, and start building and funneling underneath.
I love that, man. So tell me where you see. I really love that. Where do you see the real estate market going over the next 3 to 5 years?
I mean, Shah, with the T-bill hiking and everything like that, I have no idea.
I mean, inflation's completely out of control. The December reading was 7%. It's completely ridiculous.
Jobs report was not the best.
Yeah, I mean, unemployment's low, but I don't know if
deals are still coming. Things are still happening. I think
what we're going to see, like a little bit, just from a mortgage standpoint, you referenced it, is like rates are obviously climbing.
Yeah.
Right. The Fed is stepping off the gas on mortgage-backed security purchases. A lot of people think there's so much correlation with the Fed funds rate. They are going to jack the Fed funds rate this year many times. Right. This is the only tool they have to slow inflation.
Yeah.
But there's so much more to the market dynamics in terms of how mortgage bonds are priced. I know that bonds in general just hate inflation. And so I think rates are going to climb. And so my question to you is, like, if we're in an environment where rates are 3.5 or 4, even 4.5%, where do you see the dynamics of the real estate market going, given that inventory is at all-time lows? 2021 was essentially a record year in sales, right? The amount of sales that occurred.
I think about mostly like 18% in our markets.
So there's not a lot of inventory. Prices are at what is by all means an all-time high. Right.
Yeah.
So, and now rates are climbing. So, if we're just looking at macroeconomics, the cost of ownership goes up.
Yep.
Right, inventory will start to flush out now because prices are good. Eventually, supply will increase, demand will diminish because rates are very high, and you'll start to see the market settle back in a little.
Yeah,
right. That's kind of where I see it. Do you see a similar picture?
I see the same kind of thing happen, but again, like with these kind of things,
you never know.
For myself, it's like I've thought since 2017 we were going to see a slow.
I know, it's so
right?
true.
And it just hasn't happened.
I know.
It just keeps on going and growing.
And with that said, we don't know anything.
Yes.
We don't know anything, and nothing that we said actually could come to fruition.
Yeah.
But, there's a guy, Barry Abebe, he's a very famous mortgage rate guy. He knows the business extremely well. He's a super brilliant guy. And he's predicting that interest rates will go to 1.5% this year. No joke. That is his prediction.
Wow.
The last 2 predictions came true.
Correct.
Right. The guy is so I don't know how that happens, or if we just dip into a recession, since the government's been printing money for so long here, and we dip into a recession, and then the government has to step in and just say, we need to make rates really low because we need to get people back in, and the real estate market's dying on the vine. I don't know. I personally am not bullish on what the next couple of years look like, just for the U.S. economy as a whole, even though things are good right now. I'm not sure what consumer demand looks like over the next couple of years. I'm not sure how any of these markets trade up. I'm heavy in cash right now, even though that's probably not so wise because inflation is so darn high. But
certainly,
I'm fearful of what I'm not fearful, but I'm concerned about sort of what the real estate market might look like price-wise. And so people ask me like, is this a good time to sell? And I'm like, yes. Definitely a good time to sell.
I had this.
Is it a good time to buy? Maybe. It depends on what your need is.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly.
If it's a primary home, yes.
Yeah.
Right? If you're trying to buy an investment, maybe not the best time in the market.
Well, also it's about like, why are you purchasing? Like we have one client, we've done like a series of loans from him. And I'm not going to say his name, but we've worked with them quite a bit of times over the years. And, his whole thing is about cash flow, right? Like, he has a job at a major entertainment company. He's, looking to kind of segue out of the digital placement there. And so, now with Madison Mortgage and Chris Fenelus, he's purchased 3 properties for investment, and he's replaced his salary by cash flow. And so
Perfect.
I don't.
So very specific objective.
Yeah. So,
one, he probably has cash. I don't know specifically which client you're referencing, but he has the cash to make the investment purchases, and then he's just looking at cash flow basis.
Yeah, and
what's my cash flow look like?
He's replaced his income, and now he has more free time to dial in and to go after his.
In
goals.
those instances, I think it's amazing, right? Like, and Buffett's always the guy who's quoting. It's not about like timing the market, it's about time in the market.
Yes.
Right? Like long term, if you're buying fairly well and your objective is long term hold, you'll do well over time, right? History has proven real estate as being one of the most appreciating assets historically ever.
And the other thing is don't think because like if the economy does change, and going back to the start of this podcast, is I started in mortgages, just went over into rentals. Okay. As the market dropped, rental prices went up.
There's always an inverse relationship.
So, it's not going to be cheaper for you to rent.
I don't think so.
So I think it's always a great time to buy. Again,
I think it's your primary home. It's always a good time. If the need arises and you're ready to buy and you've saved money and it's like, get in.
You should. Yeah.
Be informed, know what's going on. Right, but as rates rise, affordability changes. The prices, I think, have to flatten.
Yeah, I think they're going to, but with these things, we usually look in 3, 4, 6 months before the rates, you start to see what's going to happen in the market, and then again, things just climb and they go the way that they've been going.
But also, if you buy now, the converse to that is rates are still very good. If you catch it and you buy now before rates spike, then you're sort of locking in some really good financing,
cheap money
at cheaper rates. Whereas the prices may come down in the near future, but the rates are going to go up. So your sort of cost to borrow is the same, right? Your payment is the same here when the prices are high and your rates are low as it is when it's here, and then it gets even worse when it's here, right? So
now you're explaining it to me. This is how I sound, guys, when I'm talking to a client who's leaving the boroughs and going to Long Island to 20 grand in tax. It's like, the tax, but it is. The cost is still the same.
The cost is the same, generally speaking. So that's why I'm like, if it's a primary resident, I think it's great. I think if you're making investments or second homes, sometimes you want to be strategic about that.
If it's about cash flow,
from a timing perspective.
I'm always about the cash flow. I think,
and if the cash flow dynamics work, then it makes sense.
And some people are just playing the equity game, and then that's when you need to.
If you're just playing the equity game and you're breaking even on an investment, it can work, provided that your cash flow covers your cost to carry the property. Right? Great. That means you're renting a house, but somebody else is basically paying your mortgage down.
Yep.
Right? So there's that sort of approach to it. And then if you're just playing the game like, I'm not getting a lot of cash flow, but I'm bullish on the market, and I think I think housing prices will still go up. That works, like purely from an investment standpoint. And by the way, I get this question literally every day. Like somebody's calling me, texting me, emailing me, hitting me on social media, like, "This is a good time to buy."
Yeah, no, all the time.
Yeah,
but it's always
you probably get that question every day.
Yeah, and then the thing is people have horrible ways about going about answering that question too. Like, or when people ask, like, how's real estate? It's good, right? Like, it's
a tough question to answer based on who your audience is.
Yeah, get into why it's good and what's going on in your local market, and you'll be surprised. Like that person may now just refer you somebody else when you're getting those questions. I'm sure you've seen that. You answer the question so thoroughly, and I know you're very pointed, and you get into the meat and potatoes. Whenever you're asked a question, you help.
I asked you the question and then answered it.
Yeah. You want people but you want people to know.
I want to understand your side of it. Like, how do you see it? Right?
Listen, I think that right now in the next 3-5 years in the business, in terms of real estate, I think it's a great opportunity. First of all, if you have any type of equity in your home, you're a high equity kind of person and you're looking to sell for whatever reason, downsizes, maybe new employment someplace else, get on the market, make the sale happen. Again, go back to what I was talking about, deal with the buyer's agent who's going to give you a consultation, who's going to give you the service that you need because the market is competitive. Utilize the equity the way that is right now. These cycles that we see run usually 16 to 18 years, and right now we're coming towards like the end of one of them.
Yeah, it looks that way.
And so you should maximize on the equity that you have now instead of going through, just like stop right now. Think 10, 15 years ago who you were, how much money you had, what your credit and income was like, right? And then now think about the equity that you have in your home, and that in the next 3 or 5 years when this thing resets, it's a possibility that you use that. And so with all the knowledge and information you've gained over the last decade, I'm sure that you could put that to use in a way that it benefits your family, right? And increase your living scenario, or maybe downsize and get something that fits you better and doesn't bleed you out from a financial perspective.
So final question, would you have purchased brownstones in Bed-Stuy 15 years ago?
Me? I mean, who wouldn't, right? I mean, I have an aunt, she's in Prospect Heights. She actually has 3 brownstones side by side by side. And she got them all for like $60,000 to $78,000 back in the day.
Ridiculous.
It's crazy.
That's ridiculous.
She doesn't live here anymore. She's down in Virginia. And 2 of them are rented, and the other one is just like it's used for the family. So wherever you're at in the country, if you're going to school here in New York, you got free room and board.
Yeah, love it.
But I mean, she could do that, right? Because she's bankrolling on
her basis is so low. It's great,
crazy.
That's great. For the non-New Yorkers, that's one of many areas in Brooklyn that have really taken off. I mean, Brooklyn is an international name now, right? It's crazy to see what's occurred just in our backyard here.
Just yesterday, I was in Gravesend.
Yeah.
By like East 3rd Street. I don't know if you know that.
I know that area.
Yeah, tremendous. A lot of Syrians over there. High concentration of wealth. Was completely unaware that there was like these 4 or 5 blocks where it's like $8 million homes in the middle of Brooklyn.
It's incredible.
Like I didn't realize that.
It's incredible. And there's a beautiful stuff there too, like extraordinarily beautiful.
From the architectural standpoint, it's tremendous.
Amazing.
But that neighborhood is broken into like top 20 most expensive neighborhoods in New York City.
Yeah. Wow, I didn't even know that. That's crazy. Yeah.
And I think there's like that little area.
That little pocket.
Yeah. Which might be like 5 or 6 streets and like a couple blocks long.
So cool.
But yeah, Brooklyn's insane.
And we digress. So Chris, thanks for coming out and doing this, man. It was so much fun. As you can see, we can talk for hours and hang out and goof around. Hopefully, everyone out there that watched this, if you watched it for this duration, got some really good benefit out of it. We appreciate you watching. Appreciate you coming down and doing this. I had a great time. We'll do it again. We'll do a follow-up in 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, that'll be good. We'll see where the market went.
Follow up.
All right, guys, signing off. Thank you.
Signing off. Thanks, guys. Over and out.